Good evening. Welcome to the Skokie Village Board meeting for Monday, May the 4th, 2020. As a preface to the meeting this evening, I would like to read a statement explaining why the Village Board is conducting its meeting virtually. Until further notice, meetings of the Skokie Village Board will be held electronically, with the majority of village officials participating via remote access in order to comply with the state of Illinois stay-at-home order. Members of the public who wish to comment as to an item on the published agenda or to comment during public comments must submit their statement or question in writing to the village manager's office no later than noon on the day of the scheduled meeting, and all properly submitted statements or questions will be presented and read during the relevant portion of the meeting. Written comments may be submitted by email to citizencomment@skokie.org, by mail to the Village of Skokie, the Village Manager's Office, here at Village Hall, 5127 Oakton, 60077, or via the Village's Dropbox location by the public entry to Village Hall. The meeting will come to order, and the clerk will please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The clerk will please call the roll.
Trustee Roberts?
Here.
Trustee Sutker?
Here.
Trustee Ulrich?
Here.
Trustee Bromberg?
Here.
Trustee Klein?
Here.
Trustee Gray Keeler?
Here.
Mayor Van Dusen?
Here we have a quorum. Next item on the agenda is approval of the consent agenda for this evening's meeting. A motion is in order. Trustee Sucker, seconded by Trustee Klein. Is there anything on the consent agenda anybody would like to have removed? I think I can see everybody. If you put your hand up. If I'm a little slow, just speak up and yell. Call the roll, please.
Trustee Roberts?
Aye.
Trustee Sutker?
Aye.
Trustee Ulrich?
Aye.
Ulrich. Trustee Bromberg?
Aye.
Trustee Klein?
Aye.
Trustee Gray Keeler?
Aye.
Mayor Van Dusen?
Aye, the motion passes. One of the effects of the COVID-19, unfortunately, is the effect that it is having on our school children, and particularly this year, those who are graduating. In honor of them, we would like to issue the following proclamation. Whereas school graduation is meaningful to so many people because it is a rite of passage that marks academic and civic accomplishment. For many students, it is momentous because they may be the first in their family to have the opportunity to achieve academic goals. And whereas graduations help students take measure of and remember their hard-earned accomplishments. And we call the graduation ceremony a commencement because it enables students to look forward to the future. And whereas commencement ceremonies all across the country have been canceled due to the harsh and unrelenting impact of COVID-19 and the need to protect everyone through social distancing, which understandably includes abandoning public gatherings. And whereas the cancellation of graduation events at schools throughout the village of Skokie has created the need to find other means to properly and proudly recognize our student graduates at Niles Township High School District 219, both the northwest and central campuses. 1,085 graduates. Old Orchard Junior High District 68, 190 graduates. Lincoln Junior High School District 69, 183 graduates. Fairview School District 72, 74 graduates. East Prairie School District, 54 graduates. And McCracken School, 73 and a half, 116 graduates. Whereas the school community, led by our outstanding and caring school administrators and teachers, seek to celebrate all graduates in the village of Skokie during the week of May 18th, 2020, designating the week to make some noise for the class of 2020. And whereas high school graduates throughout the village of Skokie may display red or purple ribbons on their trees during the week of May 18th to identify their accomplishments. And now, therefore, I, George Van Dusen, Mayor of the Village of Skokie, heartily commend all of the graduating students in the Village of Skokie and acclaims them and their families for all of the diligent work that brought them the distinction of graduate. The Village of Skokie asks every resident to join in saluting these students by joining in the celebration to make some noise for the class of 2020, by making noise, singing songs, or just shouting congratulations on May 20th, 2020 at 8:20 p.m., 2020 military time, as all of our schools will be lighting up the night from 8 to 9 p.m. May their future journeys be happy, successful, and safe as the impact of COVID-19 fades in time from this personal, joyous accomplishment. We all join in congratulating our graduates this year, and we also will help light up the night at 8 to 9 p.m. on May 20th at 8:20. May all of our graduates do well and find a source of joy in their accomplishment, and may their families equally feel a sense of accomplishment for what these graduates have done. We wish them the very best for their future endeavors, and we're very proud of our schools, our teachers, our administrators. The next proclamation: whereas the Congress and President of the United States have designated May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day, and the week in which it falls as Police Week. And whereas the members of a law enforcement agency of Skokie, Illinois, play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of Skokie. And whereas it is important that all citizens know and understand the problems, duties, and responsibilities of their police department, and that members of our police department recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, by protecting them against violence or disorder, and protecting the innocent against deception and the weak against oppression. And whereas the Police Department of Skokie has grown to be a modern and scientific law enforcement agency that unceasingly provides a vital police service. Now, therefore, I, George Van Dusen, Mayor of the Village of Skokie, do hereby proclaim the week of May 10th to the 16th, 2020 as Police Week, and call upon all residents of the village of Skokie and upon all patriotic, civic, and educational organizations to observe Police Week with appropriate ceremonies in which all of our people may join in commemorating police officers, past and present, who by their faithful and loyal devotion to their responsibilities have rendered a dedicated service to their communities. In doing so, have established for themselves an enviable and enduring reputation for preserving the rights and security of all of our citizens. I further call upon all residents of Skokie to observe May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day in honor of those peace officers who, through their courageous deeds, have lost their lives or have become disabled in the performance of duty. And of course, we especially want to recognize all of the service that our police have given to us during this very difficult period of COVID-19. But also the daily service that our officers give is the envy of the state of Illinois. And I'd like to recognize our village manager, who would like to give us a testimonial to our department. John?
Thank you, Mayor Van Duzen. And as we celebrate our police department this evening, I would like to share a recent example of the service provided by our police department. On Wednesday, April 29th at 9:15 a.m., Skokie police personnel responded to a mutual aid request from the Illinois State Police for an at-risk person. The person was armed with a handgun and seated in a parked semi-trailer truck on the northbound Edens Expressway ramp at Old Orchard Road. The initial request for the traffic assistance regarding shutting down traffic at Old Orchard Road and the Eden Expressway was the first point of contact we had. The request evolved into shutting down north and southbound traffic on the Edens Expressway and establishment of an outer perimeter. All the perimeter officers did a great job of maintaining safe traffic flow operations and moving pedestrian traffic to safe areas. Skokie Police Department also assisted the Illinois State Police with communications with Northbrook, Wilmette, Morton Grove, and Lincolnwood Police Departments to assist with the expanded elements of the traffic shutdown. The Skokie Police Department Facebook page and Nixle messages were sent out to advise citizens to avoid the area. An observation team of Skokie police detectives set up an observation post with high-powered binoculars in room 520 of the Hampton Inn and Suites upon a request by the Illinois State Police. Skokie Police Department then mobilized our traffic control trailer, which is preloaded with approximately 200 traffic barricades, to assist in traffic control measures related to this incident. The Skokie Police Department Special Operations Unit assisted the operation by bringing the COPS vehicle, known as 7300, to the scene to establish a joint command post with Illinois State Police located in the parking lot of Bloomingdale's. The Special Operations coordinated all computer and Jamboard operations at the command post. It's where all the technology comes to one place so decisions can be made using real-time data. The Illinois State Police also requested the assistance of Skokie Police Department drone operations. The Village of Skokie flight operators ran multiple drone flights over and around the scene and streamed a live video feed to the Joint Command Post for viewing by Tactical Command personnel via the Jamboard. The Skokie Communications Division established radio communication control for the officers assigned to the incident. Once established, event operations stayed on one of the STARCOM frequency, while all patrol operations were diverted to another frequency. There was media coverage of this incident, and most media outlets set up operations in the extended stay hotel parking lot. The Illinois State Police SWAT and negotiators arrived on scene, and a successful negotiation resolved this incident. A man's life was likely saved due to the combined efforts of the Illinois State Police and the Skokie Police, as well as the other police departments in the area.
And I think it's this kind of service that our officers give on a daily basis that is reflected in the every 3-year survey that we take. Every time we do the survey, and we've been doing it for about 20 years now, our police department always comes in the 90th plus percentile in recognition by our residents. And this evening, we have with us Chief Scarpelli, who has ably led our department, and we're grateful for everything that the police do. And so I would ask everybody on May the 15th to please keep in mind, especially the work that our department has done and continues to do. And Chief, we thank you and the department for everything. And what happened last week could have become a tragedy, but instead, as John just remarked, it's likely that a life was saved because of our department. So thank you to everybody in the department. Next item on the agenda is report of our village manager, John Lockerbie.
Thank you, Mayor Van Duzen. Item A tonight is regarding a COVID-19 update, and I've asked Dr. Catherine Kennard to provide us with the most up-to-date information regarding the presence of COVID-19 in our community and the strategies that we're employing to battle that virus.
Good evening. It's good to see you all. Mayor Van Duzen and Skokie Village Board, I am pleased to be here tonight to give you an update on the Skokie COVID-19 response, but also to recognize the recipients of the 10th Annual Public Health Partners in Excellence Awards first. This is typically, you probably know, my favorite event of the year, when we give these awards jointly between the Board of Health and the Health Department. Dr. Drackler, who's the chair of the Board of Health, and the recipients are present normally, but due to the pandemic, that's not possible. But I still didn't want to lose out on their public recognition. So I'll just read a brief word about both of our recipients today. The Skokie Health Department could not provide critical services without the cooperation and assistance of many individuals and organizations. Each year, the Health Department and Board of Health recognize 2 entities that have provided exceptional support of public health initiatives in the community with the Public Health Partners in Excellence Award. This year's award recipients are Erie Family Health Centers. Dr. Lee Francis sends his regards and wishes he could be here, and said he will publish this all over social media through Erie, thanking the village for this recognition. But to Erie Family Health Centers for providing culturally and linguistically appropriate care for Skokie residents who would not otherwise have access to health care, dental care, or mental health services. Erie has been a wonderful partner in this regard, welcoming all referrals of Skokie residents, adults and children, U.S.-born or immigrant, regardless of underlying health conditions, regardless of ability to pay, or health insurance status. Improving access to comprehensive quality health care is a priority of the Skokie Community Health Plan. We are grateful that in April of 2019, Erie responded to our community needs by doubling the capacity of the Evanston Skokie Family Health Center. The second recipient is Peer Services. For their many years of support for our youth tobacco use prevention programs, including the recent vaping epidemic. During this time, Peer Services staff have held student poster competitions, helped Old Orchard Junior High students create an anti-tobacco video, and worked with students at Lincoln Junior High, you might recall, to display 400 t-shirts outdoors during Kick Butts Week. I wasn't very enthusiastic about that, I'll admit, but it turned out great thanks to the assistance of our own Public Works Department who figured out a way to hang them all up outdoors. I just thought they'd get wet, but there I am, being limited. Peer Services is also taking a leadership role with providing education and help at both high schools for teens and parents around vaping. And tonight we have Beth Lindley with us to say a few words about all of the wonderful work that Peer Services is doing with regards to the youth court call. Beth?
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Kennard, and trustees for allowing me to just share a few comments. Peer Services is dedicated to serving youth and families in our community, and I am thrilled to add a few comments related to this special recognition. Peer Services has been a collaborative partner of Skokie's Youth Outreach Program, a program of the Human Services Division since its inception over 21 years ago. They were among the first social service agencies that partnered with us to provide meaningful interventions as a response to youth ordinance behaviors. Among the services they provide are alcohol drug evaluation, early intervention counseling services, outpatient treatment, and educational programming. They provide these services on a sliding scale, as more than 60% of the families and youth referred through this program are at low to extremely low income and uninsured often. They send staff to our monthly youth ordinance court call so that youth and their parent guardians can make immediate contact in order to schedule services. They demonstrate measurable outcomes resulting from receiving care through peer services, such as achieving clean screenings, having a positive support network, and demonstrating improved decision-making. At our request, they have often conducted substance abuse education programs for underage consumption and possession of alcohol, and more recently have responded to concerns about vaping. They have been an active participant in our collective conversations and have offered their expertise in response. Peer Services is truly a partner we count on, and we thank them for their service. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Beth. The Health Department and Human Services is grateful to both entities and looks forward to continuing these valuable partnerships. The recipients will both receive an award. Yep, I can show it up here. That this plaque will be sent to them in the mail during the coming week, and then we will publicize the awards in the July-August edition of New Skokie. So thank you, and thanks for the applause. So moving on to COVID-19. We are in the midst of a terrible global pandemic, the likes of which has not been seen for 100 years. This is beyond what any of us have experienced, and I know how difficult it is for everyone, that we long for return to our normal social interactions and livelihoods. I thank all Skokie residents, businesses, schools, and other organizations for your continued perseverance and for working together for the benefit of the entire community. The control measures that have been implemented, such as social distancing, staying at home, hand washing, and wearing face coverings in public, are effectively reducing the spread of COVID-19 and flattening the curve. I wanted to give you an idea of the vast breadth and scope of the COVID-19 public health response in Illinois. Because COVID-19 is a respiratory illness that spreads easily from person to person, we must work together across the entire state to control the spread of disease. There are 97 state-certified local health departments in Illinois, most at the county level, and we are all collaborating. This is a really remarkable effort, being led by the Illinois Department of Public Health, which has the overall legal authority for communicable disease control in our state. Daily statewide public health calls are occurring to discuss epidemiologic findings regarding the spread of COVID-19, groups that have higher risk, and other aspects of the disease, as well as monitoring hospitalization rates, availability of personal protective equipment, testing capacity, and what metrics are most useful, all with the goal of determining a plan for how best to protect Illinois residents from a disease that does not yet have a treatment or vaccine. More locally, the Skokie Health Department is a member of the Northern Illinois Public Health Consortium, which is comprised of 17 health departments covering 8 million lives, including Chicago, Cook County, Lake County, and DuPage County, reaching as far north as Winnebago County, as far south as Kankakee. The members of the consortium are sharing information and coordinating our control efforts around the COVID-19 pandemic for the benefit of the region. In addition, the Skokie Health Department is working closely with area healthcare providers and hospital systems, especially North Shore. I am receiving daily updates, and we're having regular conference calls with the leadership of both Skokie Hospital and the North Shore organization to cooperate from the community level to the hospital and back again in order to limit the spread of COVID-19, minimize severe illness, and ensure that our hospitals do not become overwhelmed. As of today, there have been 520 people confirmed to have COVID-19 in the village, with 83 having been hospitalized, 311 people recovered, and unfortunately 19 deaths. I will reiterate that the people who have died were valued members of our community and beloved. Our hearts go out to their families and friends during this very difficult time. Crucial to our understanding of COVID-19 is case investigations and contact tracing. The health department nurses, with help from 14 members of the Medical Reserve Corps, are interviewing all new cases to determine, if possible, the source of their infection and to identify their close contacts. Case investigations and contact tracing are labor intensive. We have called about 2,000 close contacts, anywhere from 1 to 10 people per case since the outbreak began, so that they would know to stay home in quarantine for 14 days until we were able to determine whether or not they were going to become ill. In looking at the data from these investigations, there are a few points that I wanted to share with you. As I mentioned when I spoke with you last month, Skokie residents confirmed to have COVID-19 live throughout the village pretty uniformly and come from all walks of life. We are noting, however, that for working-age people whose occupation is known, there's a preponderance of essential workers. There are many healthcare professionals in this group and a number of first responders, but also residents who work at gas stations, pharmacies, correctional facilities, food service establishments, manufacturing plants, laundries, and those who are in the transportation industry. About half of Skokie cases involved household transmission, and there have been instances where the household members of these workers have also become infected. The new face covering requirements will help to protect these essential business workers from acquiring COVID-19 while on the job. Working along with the personal health team, the environmental health staff have been equally busy assisting a wide variety of Skokie businesses with regards to COVID-19. Their work involves phone consultations and on-site visits to confirm that businesses are following proper protocols to ensure worker safety with adequate personal protective equipment, social distancing, cleaning and sanitation, and appropriate handling of situations in the 14 businesses where workers have become ill with COVID-19. I have to say, there's been a tremendous positive response from the business community, who are eager to take any measures possible to protect their workforce. We've really had very few issues along that regards. As the COVID-19 pandemic continues, the public health workforce needs to expand significantly. It is estimated that 100,000 contact tracers are needed immediately in Illinois. Fortunately, Oakton Community College has stepped forward, working with local health departments to create the state's first public health contact tracer paraprofessional training program. I was delighted when they gave me a call, and we hope this can become a model for the state for other community colleges. Online courses are set to start May 26th, and students can complete the program in as little as 3 weeks. We will publish additional information about this opportunity on our website as soon as it's available. I'm sure many of you are aware that the university modeling teams providing Governor Pritzker's office with estimates of the trajectory of this pandemic recently announced that they believe the number of deaths would have been as much as 20 times higher if Illinoisans had not stayed home and followed social distancing measures. They emphasized, however, that the true trajectory is unknown and depends on the actions of all of us. The first wave of COVID-19 in Illinois, terrible as it is, with 64,000 cases and 2,700 deaths in just the first 2 months, was started by a few individuals. We can expect that the next wave will begin with thousands of individuals and has the potential to be far greater. Although the curve has clearly flattened, if you look at the daily counts in Skokie, you can see it. We have not seen a decrease in the number of new cases each day or a reduction in the percent of positive tests, which is currently at about 30% in our area. Both measures are what we would want to see prior to relaxing social distancing measures greatly. I can assure you that every level of government is engaged in this response, and we are all working together as one state to make the tough decisions ahead, knowing that there's never going to be a completely safe time, but that, of course, we're also recognizing that economic impact is dire. I do want to thank Mayor Van Duzen, Village Manager John Lockerbie, the village trustees, and my colleagues here at the village, and all of you for continuing our daily conversations and work to effectively respond to this pandemic and come out safely on the other side together. Thank you. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Trustee Ulrich?
Thank you, Dr. Kennard, for all that you do. My question is, if the second wave comes and it's supposed to be in conjunction with the seasonal
We're having
flu?
trouble hearing you, trustee.
Oh,
Can you, I don't know if you can do something different.
The second wave, I understand it to be in conjunction with the seasonal flu. Is the village going to start giving, when do they start giving flu shots, make those available for people? And I'm understanding the recommendation is to get them. Is that correct?
Yes, thank you for bringing up flu shots. You know, we do hope that eventually, maybe within a year, maybe within a little longer than that, or maybe a little sooner, there will be vaccine available to provide prevention. So the measures that we have in place are what we're going to use until we can get a vaccine. We are planning, we're looking at, and in collaboration with other health departments in the area, we're looking at other models of giving the flu shots. But certainly everyone should get a flu shot in the fall, because that will reduce the level of respiratory illness and reduce the burden on our hospitals. We do want to recognize, though, that the model that we currently use, we have a lot of older volunteers who would be in high-risk categories, and also the number of people that we're able to move through very efficiently, but still it's about 1,000 people in a 4-hour period. And so until we get a vaccine and a preventative for COVID-19, it's likely that that will not be our model. I can't tell you today what that will be, but I've already been in discussion with John Lockerbie, and we're thinking about ways that we could have better social distancing and not put people at risk when coming in to get a flu shot. And also just to administer the vaccine for COVID-19 when or if it becomes available.
Trustee Sutker?
Hi, Dr. Kennard.
Hi.
I'm wondering what you think about that antibodies test and what the benefits could be, or it seems to be still in question about if you have the antibodies, would you still get the COVID-19? And so I just wondered if you could give us
Sure.
more information about that.
Absolutely. Another great question. There are no antibody tests currently that are approved for measuring immunity or whether or not someone's been infected by COVID-19, unfortunately. Really, our focus right now is on getting the diagnostic tests, the nasal swabs, the PCR tests to identify people who are ill out in the community. Simultaneously, there are antibody tests being looked at, and I'm happy to say that we have a laboratory in Skokie, NTL Laboratories on Grosse Pointe Road, which called me and talked to me because they are ready to launch more of the PCR testing in the very short time period. They are also looking at the one of the tests for antibody testing, and I connected them with the Illinois Department of Public Health Laboratories, who says that they are a highly regarded, NTL is a highly regarded lab, and so they're evaluating a similar antibody test at IDPH Laboratories. So I think there's going to be the potential for collaboration. We're going to have a conference call coming up around evaluating that antibody test. So I think that's going to be an exciting development. I couldn't work this all into my presentation, so I'm delighted you guys are asking the best questions here.
Can I just ask a follow-up question about that? Because
Sure.
I thought they were doing some antibody testing.
Yes, and I would discourage anybody from getting an antibody test now if you think that it's going to provide you with information on whether or not you're immune, because we do not know that at this time. People have been offering it, and a couple of weekends ago, I was actually called by a Skokie resident who was thinking of going to a drive-by antibody testing place in another community, and there's a potential for abuse of antibody testing, so people should not get it done. The new tests are better than the ones that were done previously that were more like a pregnancy test where it said plus minus, couldn't really give you a lot of information. The tests that are being looked at, and it's just a handful right now, look at the actual level of the antibody, but we don't know what that means. We don't know if that gives you immunity. You know, for instance, if our animal control officers get a rabies vaccine, so then we periodically look at the titer of the antibody, and we know what level gives immunity. And so then we would know if they need to get a booster vaccine or not. And that's true for healthcare workers with measles, mumps, rubella, and so forth. We know those levels. We don't have that kind of information for COVID-19. And so, you know, you could get it out of curiosity, but it really I would not think that it was going to provide you any accurate information at this time.
I think Trustee
Thank you.
Roberts.
Hi, Dr. Kennard.
Hi, Christy.
I just wanted to focus a little bit about our social messaging and public education through our website in terms of what information we're transmitting to the residents. I understand, you know, the two prominent graphs that we use, the one about the total number of cases, that's necessary information, and it sheds a little bit of light on the nature of the issue. The second one about the new COVID cases per day, I think is more helpful in the sense that you can see the flattening of the curve.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess what I'm getting at is I think what I perceive in some of the emails that the village is getting and residents' questions to me, there's a sense of helplessness that is just going out of control, that there's no end in sight. People want accurate, good information, but they're also looking for some hopeful information. So that second chart that you've been using now recently, can you help us understand what are the key things that you're going to be looking at over the next 7 days, 2 weeks, 30 days?
Sure.
When will we start to see some positive news, hopefully? And what are the key things that you're looking for to determine that?
Sure. Well, I think the positive news is that we have flattened the curve. That's pretty obvious. And so we really have, as I said, the modelers that are from University of Illinois, University of Chicago, and Northwestern University that are helping to inform decisions about this response in Illinois have said, as I mentioned, that they estimate there's 20 times fewer deaths than what we would have had without all the measures that have been put in place. And so I think that that's certainly we will see a decrease in the number of cases. I can't tell you today when that will be. What we would like to see is 2 weeks worth of decreasing number of cases, and also looking at the number of positives. The more people we test out in the community, also because of expanding the testing capability with the PCR tests and the nasal swabs, the better idea we'll have about how many people actually are out in the community. Right now, we think that most people are still susceptible. No one in the United States had immunity to this virus, and so that's where we're starting from, and those are the measures that we would look at. However, because of the, all of us, me included, want to get back to our regular way of life, right? Who doesn't? The weather's nice, we want to get out. I haven't seen my parents in months, and they're in their 80s. Don't know how long they'll be around. I can sympathize with, job loss, all of that. So taking that into consideration, I think that the measures that are being put in place now to start opening things up, and I know the mayor and John are working across other municipalities to start reopening, and we will monitor what the response is. If everyone can continue to social distance, use all the same measures that we've had in place, wear the face coverings, and we don't see a dramatic increase in number of cases, then we can continue to try opening up, even if we don't see that decrease. And I don't know if John or Mayor, if you have anything else you might want to add about the economic impact or what we're working on. Sorry to put you on the spot here, but.
No,
No, actually, it's a segue.
Okay. Da-da-da, okay, yeah.
Well done, Dr. Kennard. One of the items that we do want to announce tonight is that the village is in the process of creating a recovery task force to focus on how, as a community, we will approach reopening. And so I want everybody to be aware that Mayor Van Duzen and Michael Lorch and I have been working to create this task force. The economic development team staff is also involved, but the task force will have representatives from the business and healthcare industries and include members of the Chamber of Commerce Board as well as the Economic Development Commission. And the task force will be announced this week, and the first meeting will occur next week, the week of May 11th. And again, the work of the task force will include reaching out to a number of businesses and organizations to understand their needs and concerns as they think about opening. And then we really would just have a focus on how, as a community, we will approach reopening. And so I look forward to the work of the task force.
So Trustee Roberts, I just wanted to add that I thought that the cumulative was hopeful because it shows how many people have recovered. But it sounds like you're thinking maybe, I thought in combination the two graphs were good. We also have, the gender breakdown, the age breakdown, and so on. So are you getting a sense that I'll tell you, there's some statisticians in Skokie who are really looking at all the numbers, and we're chit-chatting back and forth about them. So I do think that people are really looking at the graphs.
Well, are we or can we share information about the number of percentage of cases that are positive? It seems to be that is another very critical number that you're looking at.
Yes, that's hard to get for Skokie itself. I can say, that's why in this region, I can say generally, here looking at all the testing that North Shore is doing and all the testing that Chicago is doing are combining those, it's about 30% right now. We would like to see it closer to 10% than 30% of the number of tests, but right now it's hovering around 30% of the tests are positive. I could, see about sharing that information on the website.
Well, I just think that our residents really appreciate
Sure.
data like that,
Yeah.
that people are looking ahead. And
Yes.
obviously we all have hope that things are going to begin to open up, and
Yes.
we're going to beat this thing and move forward. But as we do that, people are looking, I think, to the village rightfully to try to
Right.
provide information of kind of where do we stand today,
Right.
and what does it look like in the near future. And then just one follow-up question, then I'll be quiet. So there's 311 people that you put in the category of recovered or released. So your department's been able to do contact tracing in all 311?
Yes.
And is it difficult for you to keep up? Do you have enough help and volunteers, and do you have to be a medical personnel in order to do so?
It is very challenging to keep up because, we had 18 new cases today, which means we have to call all of them and then identify who their close contacts are. And again, the close contact tracing is standard public health. We've been talking about, for example, if you had a kid who's a wrestler and was in a statewide competition and then developed meningitis, you need to, what public health would do would be identify who he wrestled with, who his close contacts were, so we could quickly tell them they need to get antibiotics to prevent them from developing disease. It's the same thing with COVID-19. Although we do not ever release the information about who the contact was, to the contact, who the case is to the contact. So, but it is a tremendous amount of effort, and I would say we are maintaining now. Your wife has been very helpful. She's on the Medical Reserve Corps and a nurse. If we did not have the Medical Reserve Corps, it would be very difficult. We have a part-time nurse who has been made full-time for this period. Fortunately, she was able to do that, Shelley Wax, and we have hired a member of the Medical Reserve Corps to work temporarily. Both of those salary increases have been covered by grant dollars that we're receiving from the state of Illinois. But I do worry. We also have 3 epidemiologists from UIC School of Public Health, who are 2 students and a recent graduate right now. We have another one coming on board for the summer. So I think we'll be okay for the summer, especially if the number of cases decrease, as we hope. But, oh, sorry, thank you. I hope you guys have been able to hear me this whole time. But I'm very worried about the fall, and especially if we're trying to do some modified, very large influenza campaign at the same time, and what the future holds for trying to vaccinate our entire population once vaccine becomes available. That will definitely need to involve the healthcare system. So we are already starting to have those conversations, but we will come out on the other side of this.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda.
Item B and C were approved as part of the consent agenda this evening, and item D is a request for executive session pursuant to Section 2, Paragraph C11 of the State of Illinois Open Meeting Act. A closed session is requested and to adjourn therefrom.
Motion is in order. Trustee Roberts, seconded by Trustee Bromberg. Call the roll, please.
Trustee Roberts,
Aye.
Trustee Sutker,
Aye.
Trustee Ulrich,
Aye.
Trustee Bromberg,
Aye.
Trustee Klein,
Aye.
Trustee Gray Keeler,
Aye.
Mayor Van Dusen.
Aye, the motion passes.
That completes my report this evening.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is report of our Corporation Counsel, Michael Lorch.
Thank you, Mayor, trustees. We want to turn the camera, maybe. And good evening to everyone. Item A on my agenda is an ordinance for first reading tonight. This ordinance will amend Chapter 98, Section 98391 of the Skokie Village Code. On September 16th, 2019, the Mayor and Board of Trustees adopted Village Ordinance Number 19-9-C-4487, which amended the Skokie Village Code by implementing an occupational tax pertaining to cannabis retailers pursuant to Section 81122 of the Illinois Municipal Code. In correspondence dated April 3rd, 2020, which we received from the Illinois Department of Revenue, it was requested by the department that the village amend the village code to reflect that retailers are authorized to reimburse themselves for the tax liability by charging it through to customers at the cost of the use tax. In effect, what the Revenue Department is requesting and wishes to clarify is that the retailer may pass through the tax to the consumer. Mayor, this ordinance will be on the May 18th, 2020 agenda for second reading, unless there are any questions at this time.
Are there any comments or questions?
Item B is a request for a motion. On March 16th, 2020, the Village of Skokie emergency declaration for public health necessitated by the outbreak of COVID-19, the pandemic, was enacted by resolution number 20-3-R-1460 by this body. It was extended by motion of this board to May 5th, 2020, that being tomorrow. In recognition of the extension of Governor Pritzker's executive order, it is necessary to extend the term of this emergency declaration once again. Therefore, pursuant to Section 3 of the Village of Skokie Emergency Declaration, I request a motion to extend the Village of Skokie Emergency Declaration through Tuesday, June 2nd, 2020. And in this way, to continue to authorize the village manager to establish administrative rules and procedures for the continuation of Village of Skokie finances and operations, including any and all payments and financial actions to ensure the continued and uninterrupted day-to-day operations of the village and in our community. Mayor, I would request board action on this resolution tonight.
A motion is in order. Trustee Gray Keeler, seconded by Trustee Sucker. Are there any comments or questions? Trustee Roberts.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask about the rationale and what this covers. I'm sure everyone is aware of the two lawsuits filed against the governor's executive orders, and that's pending right now. But I agree and I support this local ordinance, but how does it relate to the state stay-at-home order? Is it, and if the state order was declared unconstitutional or illegal in some manner, does this allow us to have our own authority to proceed to go forward with the type of things we need to do to protect Skokie residents?
Thank you, Trustee. As you'll recall, when this was first proposed back in March, it was triggered not just by the governor's executive order, but also the executive order of the President of the United States. Ours is not any extension or not, it does not flow in the same way as those executive orders. What you all passed at that time in particular was recognizing the stay-at-home orders embedded in those two executive orders, the federal and the state, that it meant that we needed to give authority to the village manager to be able to conduct the day-to-day business of the village, recognizing that he would not always have the ability to bring his whole staff or to bring all of us together. It is an emergency provision that protects the village. It, at this point, in many ways, is not needed in the day-to-day operation per se, because we've been able to facilitate these meetings and so forth. But it is prudent and wise, and what most municipalities throughout the country have done to guarantee that we can keep all the functions of government. This is more focused on what are we doing in terms of paying our bills, what are we doing in terms of making sure that garbage is being picked up, that the police and fire departments and emergency services can respond. The second part of your question, therefore, is if the governor's executive order were to extinguish or to be revoked by a court action, what would it mean to our declaratory provision? It only would trigger an end to our declaratory position, declaratory order or resolution, because in its operation we tied that emergency declaration to the length of the governor's executive order. So it in itself as an operation of law would stand on its own. Under our code, we have the authority to do this. As you know, under our code and under state law, Dr. Kennard's authority as a public health director is extensive. None of that per se flowed from the governor's executive order, but this resolution per se was tied in length of time to it. So I don't know if that's too much of an answer or too little, so please ask me to clarify further if you want. But it stands on its own, it's important authority, in case we were to be further hand-tied in some ways. And it only would end at your bequest by not extending it like in this resolution tonight, or should the governor's executive order end for any reason.
Well, I just think it's a complex area, and your answer is helpful, and I think we're all kind of struggling to get our heads around. I see this ordinance as being focused mostly on emergency action needed to approve contracts or purchasing of some products or something that we need that's necessary. It doesn't have much to do with what businesses can open when. I know there's other conversations that the mayor and our staff is having with our state legislators, but I'm happy to know that we at least have the foresight to have these emergency powers in terms of being able to execute contracts or purchase items that the village or the residents might need.
And the point's well taken, and I think you're emphasizing, as I read it, it specifically states that that is the purpose, to deal with the financial affairs of the village and the operation of the village. It goes no further than that. It would be other actions would take either other actions of this board or the recommendations and authority of our public health director.
Call the roll, please.
Trustee Roberts,
Question?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Was Alonka have a?
Alonka, did you have a question?
I did.
I'm sorry.
I just wanted to clarify for the public, if this emergency order coincides with the governor's order, and if the governor's order is found unconstitutional, what happens? What's the status of I know we end there, but do we have the authority to extend some other emergency order of a different kind at the time, independently?
Again, this resolution stands on village code authority. So it is not we don't need anything in the governor's executive order for the limited purposes of what we embedded in this resolution. That is authority that we take from the code. And that's why we did have that one special meeting, as you recall, to amend the rules so that we could even participate electronically. So your question is helpful in terms of clarifying to folks. There is nothing in this resolution or in this vote you're making tonight that is a direct extension of the governor's executive order. It became necessary because of the stay-at-home rules and our concerns that the elected body would be able to operate and continue to do its work.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't see any other hands. Okay, call the roll, please.
Trustee Roberts,
Aye.
Trustee Sutker,
Aye.
Trustee Ulrich,
Aye.
Trustee Bromberg,
Aye.
Trustee Klein,
Aye.
Trustee Gray Keeler,
Aye.
Mayor Van Dusen.
Aye, the motion passes.
That would conclude my report for this evening, Mayor.
Thank you. The concluding item this evening is citizen comments. John Lockerbie.
Thank you, Mayor. We have received comments from two residents for this evening. The first is a letter that was received from Madeline England of the Needs and Wants Bakery located in downtown Skokie. She requested a special development and recovery task force and fund for downtown Skokie be created, and we are in the process of inviting her to participate in the village's recovery task force. Jerry Brozek of 9725 Woods Drive has provided two emails regarding COVID-19 and stated on both, no need to read the lengthy submission aloud. All of the board members have received these correspondences, and they will be available in the manager's office if anyone is interested in reviewing them, and they will also be part of tonight's record.
Thank you. Did everybody receive those emails? Okay, good. Trustee Bromberg, I believe, this evening.
Motion to adjourn to executive session.
We are adjourned to executive session.